Welcome to the UNIMULTIVERSE. Okay, this video started off as an overview. Well, actually, I'm using footage from an overview. This is a video logs. This is an old video, or at least using old video footage I put together for a UNIMULTIVERSE overview of some Ghostbusters games. I never got around to editing it. But here I am, ghostbusting it up with Atari Sega and Nintendo. I'm taking a look at the Atari Sega and Nintendo versions of Ghostbusters, because that's what I do. On August 17th of 1993, I kind of achieved the maximum money in the Sega Master System version of Ghostbusters. So back in 2015, I decided to make August 17th the day that I talk about Ghostbusters stuff. And I was originally going to upload an overview of the Atari Sega and Nintendo Ghostbusters games, all spawned from a computer game that was known for being best on the Commodore 64, an Activision computer game. And the most downscaled version of it is on the Atari 2600. I want to talk about that game. Yeah, you can play it on the Atari 2600, or you can also play that Atari game on the ColecoVision, but only if you have the ColecoVision expansion module number 1, which lets you play Atari 2600 games. Yes, I'm talking about this Ghostbusters game, which is basically the same game as Ghostbusters for the Sega Master System, Ghostbusters the Mega cartridge. Different, but the same game. And also it was ported to the Nintendo Entertainment System. And there you have some very different versions of this game that I was going to do an overview on it. Put together a lot of footage. Okay, you heard the Sega version of the music right after hearing the Atari 2600 version of the Ghostbusters music. So here comes the Nintendo Entertainment System version. The graphics... Are the graphics better than on the Atari 2600? Is the music better than on the Atari 2600 for the Nintendo Entertainment System version of this game? Sort of. Not really, but sort of. Anyway. Yeah, okay, now we're listening to and looking at the Nintendo version of the game, because we already heard... I just said that. We already heard the Sega version of the music right after hearing some Atari audio. But alright, let's get back from me being distracted. I'm trying to talk about these Ghostbusters games. As you can see, there's differences right there. I was going to do a full-blown overview on them, but now I'm going to do a video log, and I'm resurrecting footage from an overview that I just never got around to editing. When I realized it was taking too long for me to edit the video I wanted to do for a specific day, I did a quicker video instead. A different video instead. And I just never got around to getting back to this video. But as you can see, there's differences when you start up this game. Very clear differences. The Atari 2600 version of the game requires you to use requires you to use every single switch on the Atari 2600. But I'm not going to get into too much details on that now. It's not that hard to figure out. It's actually pretty fun to play. But as you can see, you select your equipment. You don't select a car like in the Commodore 64 original version. That's pretty downscaled. But you do select different cars in the Sega Master System version of the game. The Atari 2600 one... Ecto 1 just doesn't look right, but oh, whatever. The Atari 2600 version is very downscaled, but kind of true to the Commodore 64 original game. The Sega Master System one kind of enhances upon it in some ways. It's hard to say which is better, Commodore or Sega Master System in this case. And as you can see, the Nintendo Entertainment System version of the game doesn't really live up. But one thing's cool about the Nintendo Entertainment System version of the game, for some reason in the other versions of the game, you automatically have your beam weapons, no matter what. Maybe there might be different versions of the beam weapons in the Sega game, but, you automatically... you have to buy the beam weapons in the Nintendo version of the game, which I kind of like, even though it's something you have to make time and effort to do, I suppose. Because you're buying all your other equipment, and that's pretty important equipment. Why do they just ignore it in the other games? It's like you have it by default. And of course, you're buying equipment. I always rationalize that away into the Ghostbusters mythos as you're buying the hardware to make the equipment, because the equipment's supposed to be invented by Egon and Ray. But anyway, yeah, you can see the differences. I love the Rid Compact car. in the Sega Master System version of the game, mainly because I love compact cars, and red is one of the colors I like compact cars to be. Um, but yeah, there's the green sports car, whatever. There's various different options. In the Ghostbusters movie, Ray had a choice on what car he bought, and Peter Venkman didn't seem impressed by the choice he made. But anyway, in the Sega Master System version of the game, just like in the Commodore 64 version of the game, you pick your car, different cars, and pretty cool graphics for the time. Needless to say, by the sequel on the Sega Genesis, which plays entirely differently, obviously Ecto-1 is the traditional proper movie version of Ecto-1, as you can see, which is an option in the Sega Master System game. Nintendo Entertainment System version of the game and the Atari version of the game, it's the default car. Looks a little weird in the Atari version, but yeah, whatever. And as you can see, very distinct differences in the graphics. The Sega Master System version of the game, it kind of looks like it took a little bit of inspiration from the real Ghostbusters animated series. The characters kind of look like Peter Venkman. And of course, at the moment, why not take a glimpse of Ghostbusters 2? Because why not? It's a sequel on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and and as you can see, Ghostbusters 2 has Ecto-1A, which could be another Ecto-1, or likely a revised version of the original Ecto-1. Yeah, there we have the proper Cadillac Ecto-1, But yeah, the proper Ecto-1 is an option or a requirement in all games. The only two that let you pick a different car is the Commodore 64 and the Sega game, and I'm really focusing on that point. Because this is the video footage that I recorded for another video that I happen to be looking at the moment. And, well, as you can see in Ghostbusters 2, which wasn't really the focus of this video, instead of using your proton blasters, you're using your slime blasters. Yeah, there's Ecto-1A firing its slime blasters, and the Ghostbusters also use their slime blower weapons in Ghostbusters 2 instead of the proton beams, which I thought was kind of weird, but anyway, whatever. So these games, especially the Sega and Atari and Nintendo Entertainment System versions, different takes on the same thing. As you can see, different takes on the Ghostbusters going to and coming from headquarters. You get a very good look at the headquarters in the Sega Master System game, when you have to go to headquarters to get your man, or to get more Ghostbusters or whatever, to come out with the new equipment. The headquarters flashes yellow. The guy just comes out of headquarters. It's very crude in the Atari 2600 version. It looks great in the Sega Master System version. And for some reason, the Nintendo Entertainment System version, it just shows an overhead view of the headquarters and the guys coming out to the car, which is different. Interesting, but different. Kind of like when you have to get gas in the Nintendo Entertainment System version of the game. Yeah, the Nintendo Entertainment System version of the game requires you to get gasoline, but you only have one car. That would have been a good feature for the Sega Master System game, because the Sega Master System game has optional cars, and that compact car should be really good on gas. And of course, well, I've already talked about beam weapons a bit, but hey, take a look. Sega Genesis game, beam weapon, fired as a stream. Well, at least in the parts where you capture ghosts, whatever. Often in the Sega Genesis game, you fire it as a kind of like a pulse. Kind of reminds me of Ghostbusters for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. There's like a reference to a capture mode and in the normal just blasting the ghost mode. Well, yeah, you got multiple modes of fire in Ghostbusters on the Sega Genesis as well. Some people complained about this game that the proton beams don't really reach the ghosts, and that makes it unfair. It's like, no, you're guiding the ghost, you're trying to grab the ghost, you have a chance to miss the ghost, you fail, and then you move on. Oh, and by the way, you can cross the streams in every game except for the Sega games here. Yeah, the Atari game, just like the Commodore 64 original, the same way you can accidentally cross the streams, and or intentionally, if you just want to see it happen. Very bad for your Ghostbusters. And you can lower your beams in the Nintendo Entertainment System game for reasons, I don't know why they'd ever want to lower their beams, because it's never convenient. But if you lower your beams, and then you cross them together, you cross the streams, which is deadly, or in the game, very dangerous. So, yeah, whatever. But anyway, so crossing the streams is possible, except for in the Sega game where the Ghostbusters use their common sense and don't do it. They just don't do it. You know, maybe if it was to stop a world-ending event, then the Ghostbusters would do it, but whatever. So anyway, and the way that the beams function is another way that this game is a lot like the Atari version of this game. The way the beams function in the Atari game is another way that's a lot like the Commodore 64 original, which I kind of like. I like the Atari version of this game. Yeah, anyway, at the end, just like in the Commodore 64 game, your Ghostbusters have to get past Stay Puft in the Atari version, then they cross the streams. Though in the Commodore 64 version, which had more memory to work with, more computer power to work with, it actually had the Ghostbusters going up to the top of Zool Building and crossing the streams on the temple to prevent the ghost activity and all that stuff, you know. The Sega Master System and Nintendo Entertainment System versions of the game give you a full-on battle with Gozer, but the Sega Master System version... The Sega Master System version of the game, requires you to sneak past Stay Puft as well, just like in the Commodore and Atari versions of the game. It kind of looks like it makes more sense in the Nintendo version that your Ghostbusters are working their way up the stairs, although strangely enough not fighting back. But you can't go that fast unless you use a turbo controller because, damn it, every step you take, you press the button. Yeah, I know in the movie it sounds strenuous getting up the stairs, but goddamn, that's ridiculous. Yeah, that you need a turbo controller to do that. The Sega Master System version of the game, the way you battle ghosts going up those stairs, is actually really cool. Then you get to your final battle. And of course, as I said, the Atari game, they just cross the streams and it's over. The Sega game actually has you fight Gozer, which is kind of cool. You don't fight Stay Puft, though. Stay Puft makes a presence in the Nintendo Entertainment System version of the game, which actually I thought was kind of cool, even though your main fight is with Gozer. Stay Puft climbs up the building, and you can go fire at him to slow him down as he climbs up. And of course, Stay Puft returns for the Sega Genesis sequel, which is kind of cool. And, of course, there's also Ghostbusters 2 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, which is kind of a sequel as well, based on the movie sequel. And as I said, that's the one where they use their slime blowers instead of proton packs in the gameplay. I want to use the proton pack, damn it. Yeah, slime blower's kind of cool, but I want to use the proton pack. I like nuclear particles, damn it. But yeah, I actually do really like the battle with Gozer in the Nintendo Entertainment System version of the game. So if it wasn't for the horrible part where you have to get up the stairs, the end of the Nintendo the end of the Nintendo game would actually be a high point for me. But that stairs scene, if you don't have a turbo controller, that's not good. Anyway, as I said, this video is just me talking Ghostbusters video games and using footage that was originally set aside for an overview that I did or started working on a long time ago and just never got back to completing. And you can look for more of my old videos. I have a lot of other old videos out there that you might enjoy watching. And I do plan to properly finish editing that overview. I recorded a bunch of footage for it and all kinds of whatever and just never finished it. But feel free to go check out more of my videos. Yeah, I'm just rambling, but it's that time of the year for me to ramble about Ghostbusters again. So please check out more of my videos, maybe even some of the ones about Ghostbusters or other stuff. You know, yeah, my excuse to talk about Ghostbusters. The video's almost over. You better hurry up and pick another video to watch.